Hey, third grade. So for day 4 of your Stuart Little novel study, you're going to read chapter 5 today. So I'm going to read most of it with you so you can follow along with me. Make sure you get your novel out and you're reading along. So chapter 5 is called Rescued. George was in favor of ripping up the pantry floor. He ran and got his hammer, his screwdriver, and an ice pick. "I'll have this old floor up in double quick time," he said, inserting his screwdriver under the edge of the first board and giving a good, vigorous pry. "We will not rip up this floor till we have had a good search," announced Mr. Little. "That's final, George. You can put that hammer away where you got it." "Oh, all right," said George. "I see that nobody in the house cares anything about Stuart but me." Mrs. Little began to cry. "My poor little son," she said. "I know he'll get wedged somewhere." "Just because you can't travel comfortably in a mouse hole doesn't mean that it isn't a perfectly suitable place for Stuart," said Mr. Little. "Just don't get yourself all worked up." "Maybe we ought to lower some food to him," suggested George. "That's what the state police did when a man got stuck in a cave." George darted into the kitchen and came running back with a dish of applesauce. "We can pour some of this in and it will run down to where he is." George spooned out a bit of the applesauce and started poking it in the hole. "Stop that," bellowed Mr. Little. "George, will you kindly let me handle this situation? Put that applesauce away immediately." Mr. Little glared fiercely at George. "I was just trying to help my own brother," said George, shaking his head as he carried the sauce back to the kitchen. "Let's all call the Stuart," suggested Mrs. Little. "It is quite possible that the mouse hole branches and twists about and that he has lost his way." "Very well," said Mr. Little. "I will count to 3 and then we will all call and we will keep perfectly quiet for 3 seconds, listening for the answer." He took out his watch. Mr. and Mrs. Little and George got down on their hands and knees and put their mouths as close as possible to the mouse hole. Then they all called, "Stuart!" and they all kept perfectly still for 3 seconds. Stuart, from his cramped position inside the rolled-up shade, heard them yelling in the pantry and called back, "Here I am!" But he had such a weak voice and was so far inside the shade that the other members of the family did not hear his answering cry. "Again," said Mr. Little. 1, 2, 3. "Stuart!" It was no use. No answer was heard. Mrs. Little went up to her bedroom, lay down, and sobbed. Mr. Little went to the telephone and called the Bureau of Missing Persons. But when the man asked for a description of Stuart and was told that he was only 2 inches high, he hung up in disgust. George, meantime, went down to the cellar and hunted around to see if he could find the other entrance to the mouse hole. He moved a great many trunks, suitcases, flower pots, baskets, boxes, and broken chairs from one end of the cellar to the other, in order to get at the section of a wall which he thought was the likeliest, but found no hole. He did, however, come across an old discarded rowing machine of Mr. Little's, and becoming interested in this, carried it upstairs with some difficulty, and spent the rest of the morning rowing. So I'm going to stop right there and let you read the next page and a half, because the next chapter starts on page 26. So you can finish the chapter on your own and then answer the questions for chapter 5. Remember, when you're answering these questions, always answer in a complete sentence. Use your punctuation and all of that good stuff. And then you're going to take the Google Classroom quiz on chapters 3 through 5 on Google Classroom. And of course, if you have any questions, I will talk to you at your Google Meet time. Have a great day.